Hey, what's up guys, it's Mookin Lord here, and today I want to talk about Capcom. And why I'm talking about Capcom once again? Well, I really want to elaborate more on the Capcom long-term plan as far as how they approach their game releases and their sales, rather working on or focusing on putting energy on short-term success. They're worrying about making sure that their games actually have legs and they eventually meet their long-term success. And I wanted to capitalize off of what we talked about a couple days ago regarding Street Fighter 6 and how Street Fighter 6 has essentially finally made a profit, and it was actually part of Capcom's plan of how they make this long-term success approach when it comes to this business model compared to what the rest of the industry does. Now, in this video, I want to talk about the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, is because apparently that the sales of Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection falls in line with the plan that they have as far as their long-term business sale model that they have. So before we even dive into this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, the notification bell for more gaming content here on this channel. So we're going to dive right into it right now. So apparently from Event Hubs, this article was actually covered back in November, and it just makes sense now when we talked about Street Fighter 6, where they had mentioned that Marvel vs. Capcom was actually doing well and it fit along their business model. But I wanted to elaborate and add to the discussion when it comes to this, especially if you guys are wondering whether or not if the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection has been successful. So we're going to dive right into it. It says Capcom reports Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection is selling exactly as planned, but another one of their releases is underperforming. Now, we also talked about one of their releases in the previous video that didn't perform too well, and apparently there's another one that we had left out or that was failed to be mentioned too, but according to their plan, eventually it will get there. So let's find out. So it says, after Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite essentially failed to make anyone happy, the future of the iconic franchise was left up in the air and created the questions as to whether or not another release could still grab the attention of players at large. Yes, we talked about it, and we covered it here on this channel. I know a lot of you guys are new here, but a lot of you old school Mugen TV community members that watch my channel and stuff, you understood, you was here, you knew the assignment when we was talking about Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite here and a lot of the controversy that surrounded. And a lot of you guys were also worried at the fact is that maybe this could have destroyed the relationship between Capcom and Marvel. Maybe you'll never see another Versus series, but now that we have the fighting game collection right about now, and it's out and everybody's loving it, people are enjoying it, there's hope in the air. There's some potential that we could definitely see another potential Marvel vs. Capcom game, which I believe is going to happen at some point. But let's continue. Pretty much all the signs seems to be pointing to fans putting money where their mouth is when it comes to the Marvel vs. Capcom discussing the Fighting Collection performance. The corporation recently held its second quarter financial presentation for this fiscal year, where they spoke more about their current lineup of games and how they are selling. In their question and answer session of the briefing, Capcom specifically brought up the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection as one of their main titles, and we can now know what they said thanks to the report from GameBiz in Japan. The report first brings up the Dead Rising remaster apparently selling up to Capcom's forecast at launch before getting to the game you want to hear about. Yes, so we haven't really talked much about Dead Rising here on this channel, but there's a lot of controversy surrounding that as far as censorship is concerned, localization, and everything like that. But apparently it sold well, so that didn't stop that from happening. These are, like I said, Capcom been putting out, despite how some people may feel about certain things when it comes to censorship, man, like people still love the game for what it is, and people have pretty much bought into it, so it's pretty much meeting its forecast as far as sales are concerned. So let's continue. So it says, besides that, the Ace Attorney Investigation Collection and the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection arcade classes are moving units exactly as planned, and the latter will have a physical release in November, which is already out already, which should lead to even stronger sales according to GameBiz. And that also makes sense. Like I said, this article was back in November, and I just wanted to elaborate on this because there's a lot of you guys who's asked me whether or not if the game is performing really well. But the fact is that for it to just release at the time, which if you guys don't know, Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection was sold only digitally, and you had to wait a few months into the physical release. It dropped, which dropped in November, which is last month and everything. So if it's sold really, really well, or is going to according to Capcom's business model of the long-term plan of success, then if it's doing well as far as digital, then you can only know and only imagine how well it's going to do even more, as this article said, when it comes to physical. I'm picking up my physical during the holiday, so I'll make sure I have that during the holiday. But yes, so things are sounding really, really good at this point. And then, of course, the Ace Attorney Investigation Collection. These collections, developers are now realizing how important these collections are, especially when it comes to IPs, that they are afraid to go out on a limb and I guess you would say turn them into triple A's, or if these been lying and dormant for so long and they've been so niche, these collections are a perfect way to gauge the audience, and that's what they've been doing. So to continue on, it says, while it would obviously be even better news if the Marvel vs. Capcom collection exceeded Capcom's expectations, this is still very good for the game and hopefully the future of the series as a whole too. See, this is the thing. When it comes to these collections, I don't even expect these collections to exceed expectations. It just need to do really, really well to warrant future new releases of these IPs. You know, you have to understand, this is a fighting game collection. These are collections of old games back in the 90s and early 2000s. I wouldn't expect these old classics to make gangbusters and break the ceiling, the glass ceiling as far as sales are concerned. I just think that'd be too unrealistic. And Capcom seems to have known that too, for the fact is that they're saying that, hey, it's meeting expectations, let's go. They're not expecting it to exceed expectations. I don't expect Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection to exceed expectations. These are old titles. These are people who want to relive those eras, and also, you know, the younger generations to get on board to see, hey, what these games were like back in the day. You know what I'm saying? So I don't expect this to just win over millions upon millions, but it just need to do enough. So to move on, this is seemingly the first time Capcom has brought up the collection's performance specifically, but we have had some indicators hinting at how the title is doing. You also have to understand, when it comes to game developers, if they don't say anything about performance, or they don't brag about numbers, or they don't start posting up numbers, then that's how you know a game is not doing well. We have a perfect example all the time, especially with Square Enix when it came to Final Fantasy 16. I would say more specifically the Final Fantasy 7 Remake Trilogy, especially Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. They've been so quiet about the sales and stuff like that, and now we're just hearing now that it didn't meet expectations. So that's why it's surprising to, especially the person who wrote this article, that Capcom is literally talking about the collection, because that collection is actually doing pretty well, but there's also some hints here at how sales were doing even before then. So it says that the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection nearly topped the PlayStation 4 digital sales charts for September, who also ranking in the top 20 games sold in the United States for the month too. So despite that, however, they still haven't provided concrete numbers as to how many people have actually purchased the collection, but we know at least it hasn't reached 1 million copies since it wasn't included in the Capcom's new Platinum Titles update for the quarter. So of course not, and I don't expect it to reach millions right away. And since they said it's going according to their long-term plan, then it will most definitely probably reach that at least 1 million copies and stuff. Like I said, when it comes to this collection, it just has to sell enough to warrant them to move forward to whatever new plans they may have in store for these IPs. So, it's interestingly, the series sales page still lists Marvel vs. Capcom at 11 million games sold total, which could have indicated the new collection didn't even bridge 100,000, but it appears that the company just hasn't updated that figure all year yet for some reason. So yeah, you also have to remember too, is that this, at the time of this article that was written, we don't know what it's like now since there haven't been an update for this. Also, they point out that the Marvel vs. Capcom collection is releasing its physical. Yeah, so we already have that already. Their previous fighter compilation have been a bit of a mixed bag. especially the Street Fighter 30th anniversary collection hitting 3.4 million now. But the Capcom Fighting Collection, with a focus on Darkstalkers, has yet to reach a million after 2 years. Poor Darkstalkers. It's like something about that Darkstalkers, bro, is just not clicking with people. But I have the fighting game collection, the very first fighting game collection, and I enjoyed it for what it is. This is the for what it is. It has a lot of the classics that a lot of people don't know, and that's the thing about that fighting collection. That fighting game collection had a bunch of obscure titles. So I'm still not surprised that it probably didn't reach a million copies, the first one, because that one had a lot of obscure Capcom fighting game titles. So I'm not surprised about that. It seems Marvel may end up somewhere in the middle, though. We'll need to actually see some actual numbers to know more for sure. But on the flip side of that, however, GameBiz report notes that Gami, Path of the Goddess, missed its large sales target, although it apparently crossed 500,000 copies back in August. Yes, we talked about that in the previous video, talking about Street Fighter 6 and finally reaching its sales point and stuff, and that was still mentioned, and that was a recent article, so it still haven't sold as well. But it says Capcom relayed the new action strategy game mix didn't match up to their forecast despite strong review ratings and user receptions. They reportedly attributed this failure to their inability to generate interest and awareness of the project with their promotions ahead of release, and Capcom will try to improve. Yes, because you got to understand what their new strategy, what Capcom is trying to do, is that they're trying to not go too crazy out the door with this bloated budget for marketing and promotion or whatever, because like I said before in the previous video, is that most of the money goes into marketing. The development cost is crazy, but you double it once you do marketing. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to be as cost effective as possible with the budget that they have without going overboard. And it seems though they have to really fine tune that a bit more. They also noted that sales are generally down from 2023, but this fiscal year has been rather light on major releases from series like Monster Hunter and Resident Evil. Yeah, so things are going to be light is when they don't have big blockbusters or IPs that people recognize, everything like that. But yes, as far as the Capcom Marvel's Capcom Fighting Collection, as far as its performance, they're saying that it's a part of their plan, their long-term plan of how they're going to release their titles, and they're not looking for quick results. They're looking for the long-term results, especially when you have games like Street Fighter 6 that's more of a fighting game live service platform where they want that game to last for the next 5 to maybe 8 to 10 years or whatever like that. So over time, that title would get into the profit margins, which it has already done, according to what we talked about in the previous video. But they expect the same thing to happen for Marvel vs. Capcom, and apparently that it's all on track and according to their plan. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about this news that Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection potentially is performing well, and this is at the time of the digital only. And we can only imagine what it's like when it comes to now that we have the physical to add into the mix. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts. Do you have the game? Do you have it physical or digital, or do you have both? I'm going to grab the physical over the Christmas holiday, and then I'm definitely going to buy digital as well. So if you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe button for more gaming content here on this channel. This is Mugen Lord, signing off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.